I want to show you a video.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. North Korea, South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months to a year.
Perhaps some of you have seen this video on social media from 2017. It exposes the domestic reality of life as working parents. But there was a darker side to the reaction on social media. Commentators assumed that Jung-ae Kim, the Asian woman who ran in to usher the kids out, was the nanny, and not his wife. Perhaps some of you assume that too. To those who thought that Jung-ae Kim was the nanny, it's worth thinking about why you thought that. I'm Naomi. I was born in England, married an Australian, and moved to a regional town just outside of Melbourne. And we have 3 young children under the age of 6. So I'm also familiar with wrangling the children onto the floor. But I'm also familiar with that question, are you the nanny? I was in a shop in Sydney with my son. It was a small gift shop in an affluent area. And I was asked the same question, are you the nanny? No, I replied. She then asked, is he yours? At that moment, I realised I wasn't in London. That perhaps exposure to multiracial relationships, mixed race or biracial children wasn't a norm to a lot of people. My first reaction was to be very defensive because I was being questioned on whether or not I was a mother to my son based on my skin tone. I grew up in London, one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the world. And I was surrounded by different cultures. Even in my own family, this was the norm. But when moving to Australia, I realised there was a new normal. And I appeared to be a minority, especially in the affluent areas, where I was constantly being asked, where are you from? And I reply, London. Then they would say, no, where are you really from? And I reply back, I was born and raised in London. But then I understood. Many people in Australia, they think that your skin colour defines your ethnicity and that British equals white. And any variation on that is questioned. A person's ethnicity, so that isn't where we were born. My journey into the workplace took me into childcare, where my eyes were opened up even more. I was asked questions like, because you're black, do you see me as black when you look at me? Or are you Aboriginal off the TV? And can you wash your skin so it's not dirty? I made the decision to start taking some sort of action. So I started sending emails to childcare centres so that we could increase resources that were more inclusive. We started putting educational books addressing different families and different race. We started putting dolls of colour in, which I had to source from overseas. It was real easy to find the White Princess doll from the film Frozen, but try and find another doll like Moana, and it was almost impossible. So are parents driving the market demand? And if so, why aren't they buying dolls like Moana, or at least both? And why did I need to purchase dolls and resources overseas in order to represent an Australian family like mine? According to the Australian census from 2016, 35% of Australians were born overseas. And in most states, the average household had at least one parent that was born overseas. And the typical migrant moving to Victoria isn't from New Zealand or from England, they're from India. We live in a very colourful country and always have, but the truth isn't being exposed. The media paint a picture of a very skewed norm, and my children's heroes in the books and in the media of Caucasian families. Of all the TV shows that were produced from 2011 to 2015, a massive 82% of the characters were Caucasian. Is that the Australia that you guys see? This is Toy Australia's latest contribution to the story.
to every child's development. An important message from the Australian Toy Association.
There are so many different people within Australia from so many different cultures and so many different ethnic groups. If you want to see the real representation of the Australian population, then hop aboard a tram. Look at the carriages on the people on board. You will see the real Australia, the multicultural, diverse mix of the Australian population. But when you look at our television programs, you will see a vastly different cast to the one on the tram. Why is that? The media industry is predominantly Caucasian, and the people being hired are pretty much all Caucasian. So how will things change if the industry doesn't? Isn't it time that we start thinking about hiring new generations of diverse cultures for directors and actors? I know things have changed, and we are taking strides, but it's just not enough. And if I couldn't find what I was looking for, then it was my responsibility to rewrite the story. My beautiful children shouldn't have their hair touched, shouldn't be wondering why people look at them strangely, and shouldn't be wondering why people are asking where they're from when they were born Australian. So I started to write a book. It was about my family's experience on diversity and acceptance in a kid-friendly way. So I started sending it off to Australian publishing companies and waited for their response. So instead, I decided not to give up, and I started to fund the book myself, and I got it self-published over in the USA. And I started sending it to educational boards, childcare centres, any place I could think of, I sent it out. And then the response was positive, and I started getting interest. People were calling me up to go on to shows and talk about the message of the book and to come into schools. So I went into a few schools and I started talking about the book and the main message. And the kids were very receptive. And the book was about my family and how we may look a little different from each other, how our skin colours were different, or we might have features that look different. But in all our families, we're all a little bit different. And the main thing is that we love each other, we're all unique, and we're all special in our own way. And the kids were so respectful. They asked so many questions. They talked about the book, and they're really interested in the story. But the impact didn't just stop at the children. And the comment was from a mother with her blended family. She said how her daughter, after reading the book, was now embracing who she was. And she could see the way her daughter's thinking and understanding had changed. Another comment was from a mother who said she felt ashamed. This is the first book she had read to her children featuring a multiracial family on the front cover. Books and resources that feature ethnic or multiracial people aren't only for us. You know, the United States have quotas for racial diversity. And they have resulted in a record number of shows featuring actors from all diverse backgrounds. Networks in the United Kingdom are also considering introducing them as a response to the all-white cast that's happening at the moment. I think this is something that Australia should also be looking at because we are still failing to reflect our multiracial, diverse society. I want to show you something. Because children want what they see on TV, and there are very few options for us out there. The ethnic children, my mixed race children, minority children, we don't get a say in the media. There's hardly any images that are promoting us in a positive way. And I want us to feel just as beautiful as the children that we see on TV. I want people to see that we are just as important as the children that we see on the TV. And we need to feel that the other children see us and they know that we are important. And it's all about inclusion. When have you seen an advert featuring a black child or a white child holding a black doll or Barbie? How many of you seen that? You don't see that on the TV. You will see the white doll with the blonde hair and the blue eyes. And when my child looks at the TV, he sees these things and he never relates to them. He can't relate. My daughter, she wants the long hair and the blonde hair. She doesn't see the children with the curly afro hair or the brown skin on the TV. So what she sees is what she wants. We need to be more inclusive. I want to show you this photo that was taken by Chris Buck. It was featured in the Oprah magazine. It makes its readers consider stereotypes. And this photo reflects what it was like for me and many others growing up, and why I don't want it to be for your children or mine. I hope this photo helps you understand how important representation is. If we can educate ourselves and our children from a young age, instead of asking, "Are you the nanny?" or "Where are you from?" they will ask, "How is your day?" and simply come and ask my children to play. Multiculturalism is our culture. With increasing numbers of blended families within different cultures, it's important that we recognise this and embrace it and reflect it in our media to normalise this society. Isn't it time that we educate, inform and inspire? Let's be part of the change. Mix it up, Australia.